The Diablo series is near and dear to my heart. Between 1, 2, and 3, I've probably sunk nearly 4,000 hours into the series across PC and console. I can say, without reservation, that Diablo IV is the best the series has ever been. You get all the gothic gore of the early games, and with a pulse-pounding and more balanced gameplay from Diablo III and Immortal. I put over 70 hours into the title for this review, and all I wanted to do was play more. Let's once again enter the eternal conflict in the XboxEra review of Diablo IV. The lore of Diablo is rich, with the heart being the world of Sanctuary. Created in an unholy communion between the lesser demon Lilith and the angel Norris, it is home to the Nephilim. Diablo's story always comes back to the World Stone and its reality-shaping abilities. And as always, I'll keep this review spoiler-free outside of Act 1, which was available in 3 different public betas. Set after the events of Diablo III Reaper of Souls, the game begins with Lilith, daughter of Mephisto and mother of Sanctuary, being summoned back by the mage Elias. Lilith wants the people of Sanctuary to awaken their suppressed Nephilim powers so that they can face the looming threat of the greater evils, who are reforming in Hell. In the lore, the humans of Sanctuary were showing themselves to be too powerful, so the World Stone was used to suppress their burgeoning abilities. There is so much more to it that it would take me thousands and thousands of words to break it all down. Just know that this game feels more faithful to the rules set up in the past than Diablo 3 did, and as a fan of the series, I loved where they took the story for the most part. There are a few quibbles I have around character motivations, though they are minor in the grand scheme of things. You will begin your campaign by choosing between one of 5 characters. They are the Barbarian, who was my main choice for the private beta. The Barb class struggles early on, but becomes extremely powerful as you level them up. Fully devoted to melee, the Barb works as both a damage dealer and tank for co-op play. You're a whirlwind of weaponry with a unique gear setup that allows you to equip both one-hand and two-hand weapons at the same time. Necromancers are probably the most powerfully broken class at the time of this review. Necros focus on raising the dead to use as their instruments of war. This is the class I'll be playing at launch in the full release, as most agreed during the review period that they are the strongest by far. Sorcerers are the main magic-focused class. They use the elements of fire, ice, and lightning to deal massive single-target or group damage. They are the coolest looking to play as, with a never-ending assortment of in-game fireworks. They're super strong early, though I did have some survivability issues in higher levels when my gear drop luck kinda ran out. Rogues are an intriguing mix. They use stealth and range combat, almost like a mix of a classic rogue and a demon hunter. This is a class I've played the least, though other reviewers found great success through the campaign and endgame with them. Druid is the class I put most of my time into during this review, roughly 50 hours of it as I worked into the World Tier's endgame. Druids start out rough, feeling incomplete until you've unlocked their passive boon abilities. Once those boons are unlocked, and I had a few solid legendary items, I tore things up in all 3 forms, as druids can become werewolves, werebears, or cast spells as a human. As seen in the betas, Diablo IV's map is enormous, with hundreds of various sized dungeons to explore. You begin the game by choosing your class and then lightly customizing their appearance. This is a 3/4 view isometric action RPG with a twist, as during various in-engine cutscenes, your character and other models will be shown at more traditional camera angles. The various character models, especially Lilith, did look higher quality than the druid I came up with. Still, it was really nice to see the character that I had created and the outfit I was wearing were always represented during story beats. There are a few pre-rendered CGI cutscenes in the game, including one of the first that was ever shown, that are spoilerific and absolutely gorgeous. While the map is huge, seeing it only comes in 2 forms for now. The majority of the time you'll have it in the corner of your screen, but with the press of a view button, it brings up a full view that has no transparency behind it. The one thing I found lacking was the very lack of that transparent third map view that goes over your character to help guide you more easily through the game's many winding corridors. To make up for this, you get a mount. Well, you do very deep into the campaign. I have a colleague that was so focused on clearing the map that after 40 hours, they were still nowhere near unlocking the mount because they had neglected the story. Once unlocked, your mount is available for all new characters you create from the start, as well as gaining the ability to skip the campaign entirely if you want. But that campaign is so damned good that I would only reserve this for future seasonal content, especially if they continue their tradition of seasonal leaderboards that require you to start a fresh character. There is an excellent variety of locations and enemy types in Diablo IV. I felt like nothing was missing for both new and returning locations or enemy types alike. As you explore the map on foot or on hoof, you'll constantly run into world events that procedurally pop up on the map. This happens in and out of dungeons and provides a solid incentive with its random loot drops and experience bonuses. And the loot. The treadmill of gear is the heart of a Diablo title. 4 makes some interesting changes that worked well for me as I progressed through the campaign and into the endgame. Each character has the same main armor slots with differing weapon ones. There's helm, chest, leg, boots, amulets, rings, and weapon slots which will empower your character to match your skill choices. Diablo IV feels like a good balance of drops in comparison to something like Borderlands 3. There are a lot of them, but it's easy to know if something is or is not an upgrade for you. The stats are clearly sorted with red or green signifiers to let you know if it's a number that's higher or lower quickly. Throughout the campaign, you'll see a lot of the same items, but that all changes as you progress through the endgame. For the first 50-ish levels or so, you'll have access to World Tiers 1 and 2. Once you complete the campaign, you can attempt a capstone dungeon. This is a long, difficult series of fights that you must complete if you want to enter World Tier 3 and see the true beginning of the endgame grind. This, of course, is a spoiler-free review, so what that grind is and how World Tier 4, the final one, differs will be saved for you to find out on your own. At a high level, I can safely state that it adds a ton to your character's power level quickly and your feelings of customization. Drop quality improved markedly, with unique items tied to higher difficulties making it worth the immense jump in enemy health and damage output. For those of us worried that there would be a similar finite feeling to the endgame grind that Diablo III suffered from at launch, you can rest assured. Diablo IV is a 40-plus hour campaign that will most likely take you another 100-plus hours to see all of it at launch. With the promise of constant seasonal content starting in July, including new characters over time, I feel confident that this one will be worth its increased $70 asking price. And that is due in large part to just how damned well it plays. Diablo IV, for those of you who haven't played a game in the series before, is an action RPG. From a 3/4 overhead camera view, you'll move your character with the left stick while using the face buttons and triggers to activate specific abilities and attacks. All but your main ability require either a resource or operate on cooldown timers. You'll have a main resource using ability that defaults to X when you unlock it. Y, right bumper, and both triggers will be filled with unlocks of your choice, with the right trigger ability defaulting to an ultimate. Pulled from Diablo Immortal, these are more powerful attacks that operate on a significantly longer cooldown. The fun is in finding the right skill and equipment build to synergize together in a way that deals endless damage to your foes. One of the main complaints of Diablo III at launch was how restrictive it was on where skills could be assigned. While this was fixed over time, you have full freedom on what you unlock or upgrade, when you do it, and where you can place it on your action bar right from the start. And that talent tree is large, with talent points being handed out slowly enough so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. You start out unlocking your main resource building ability, and every point spent after that goes towards opening up the ladder trees. Abilities or passive bonuses start with 1 point to unlock them, which allows you to choose branching modifiers. Your early abilities will have ranks to add to, and finding the right balance of active abilities, modifiers, and ranks will be an ever-changing metagame over the course of the next few years. On top of this is a Paragon system, something only added post-launch for the previous title. I got close to unlocking a lot of the Paragon system in my time with the game, but as our review build was a bespoke Xbox Insider version that will not carry over to launch, I couldn't bring myself to keep grinding it out. And allow me a short aside, but knowing that all my work would be gone in 4 days before the early launch of the title was a bit disheartening when it came to the thought of hitting 100 hours or so of playtime. Still, the game is so damned good that I couldn't help myself and actually kinda got close to that. Diablo 4's endgame grind is the perfect podcast or music game for me solo, and the crossplay provided between Xbox, PlayStation, and PC makes it easier than ever to play with up to 3 of your friends. I'll be creating an official XboxEra clan at launch, another part of the social-focused aspect of the game that I'll hit on in the next section. Diablo IV is a perfect blend of Diablo II's feel and 3's gameplay, with Diablo Immortal's always connected social experience. Also, every character can now dodge with the press of a B button, giving you immunity frames and the ability to traverse through enemies on a cooldown. While leveling and through the endgame positioning is key, as you have a limited number of potion slots which are tied to your left bumper. Enemies can drop potion refills at random, and boss encounters have specific health amounts where the boss will drop a couple of recharges. I utilized a mix of high damage and crowd control abilities on my druid to help mitigate the huge chunks of damage that were being dealt out to me on World Tier 2. I found that extra challenge of World Tier 2 did prepare me better for the capstone dungeon and the eventually increased difficulty for World Tier 3. Balance and fresh content will be key to the long-term health of this game. At launch though, I think it has more than enough content for the casual player and a solid roadmap for the hardcore. To aid you in your journey are various vendors. There's blacksmiths, jewelers, and more available to break down, sell, and customize your gear in what felt like a very well-balanced grind. Aspects are a huge part of the game and can be found on various legendary items or in the game world itself as you clear specific dungeons. And every region has a set number of challenges that offer up talent points, gold, paragon points, and more as you earn renown. Every side quest, area found, dungeon cleared, and more in a region will raise your renown level. This encourages exploration and 100%ing the map to maximize your endgame builds. It is also the only way to gain more potion slots, which is unbelievably important on the higher difficulties. Finding the right balance of when to salvage gear, sell it, or pull an aspect off of a legendary is one of the many systems that adds to the challenge and replayability. Diablo IV is by far the best looking ARPG I've ever played. From its normal camera view, it looks fantastic, but limited due to that perspective. Where it jumps in quality is when the camera moves down with close-ups of areas and character models that routinely match some of the better-looking AAA games out there. The faces in Diablo IV are an astronomical improvement over the 360-era ones of 3, and the use of hero lighting so that your character emanates an inner glow to brighten the environment around you works because of the camera angle. I tend to find hero lighting off-putting in over-the-shoulder titles like Horizon Forbidden West, which otherwise is gorgeous. But in this stylized, H.R. Giger-esque three-quarters view of Sanctuary, it just works. And there are a few areas of this game that look straight out of the horror game Scorn, which is otherwise terrible, but it did have that one really cool art style thing going for it. This is a less colorful, more blood and bone-filled game than the previous. A return to the gothic, hopeless splendor of earlier titles. That's not to say that it's an Unreal Engine 3 style brown and gray mess. There are areas full of light, life, and color, but they're never as vibrant as Diablo 3 was, using more natural tones to convey the sad hopelessness of this world that wasn't supposed to exist. Those story beats drive the campaign as things start slow and full of melancholy before picking up into an epic worthy of the franchise. There are a number of callbacks, and most of them work well. A few felt like they came out of nowhere, as did some of the later plot points, but I loved the neutral morality of it all in the end. No one ever felt cartoonishly evil or without point if they were literally a demon from hell. Character growth felt earned for the most part, with a couple of choices that were clearly made to lead us into the seasonal content. For those not interested in continue playing after the campaign, I can see that as disappointing them. But I'm the type that wants as much Diablo as Blizzard can healthily make, so I was not upset. And finally, I need to talk about the audio in the game, perhaps its strongest feature. And that's a weird thing to say, as I have praised nearly all other aspects of the game so profusely. The dialogue and writing are excellent and the music is fantastic, but the audio mixing is some of the best I can remember in any game. The perspective does make people talking to you occasionally feel a bit odd, as they kind of go in circles around your head if you're moving around them in game. But during combat and exploration, it is a perfectly mixed cacophony of chaos. Using the Xbox wireless headset and DTS:X headphone setup on my Series X, every second of this game was an auditory delight. And I ran into no major software bugs, only a few server-related ones. And that is a concern, as there is no offline mode in this game. You are at the mercy of your internet in Blizzard servers. They did run a few stress tests during our time with the title, where rubber banding and disconnects did occur. I had one odd issue where I ran into an invisible wall while trying to go to certain areas. It happened twice and was only solved by restarting the game. With quick load times though, it wasn't the worst issue, as it does a great job of remembering where you are and plopping you back in there quickly. As stated during the intro, I played roughly 70 hours, with the majority of that time being on a druid. I was able to make it to World Tier 3, just barely, but failed to get to 4 or see much of the Paragon system. If this version of the game had carried over to retail, I would have easily tried to put in as much time as possible during our 10-day review period. I only stopped because it all disappeared when we lost access to this Xbox Insider build on May 26 at 12 PM Eastern Time, a very sad time for us otherwise very lucky reviewers. I do fear how the game runs at launch, as Diablo 3 did not work for a very long time when it came out, and I hope the betas have helped Blizzard prepare for an onslaught of players entering Sanctuary. There will be microtransactions and battle passes galore, I am sure, but I've become numb to the practice. But those of you who despise it, be ready for an onslaught of cool-looking items vying for more cash out of your wallet post-launch. Wrapping things up, Diablo IV is a triumph. It fulfills its promise, combining the aesthetics and feeling of early Diablo titles with the fantastic gameplay of the later ones. It is dark, gory, features a meaty campaign, and an endgame that should delight fans of the series for hundreds, if not thousands of hours.